Hello, welcome to our conference, and I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and to tell us what organization do you come from, and tell us something about your practice and about yourself. Hello, my name is Magdaléna Ezrová. I come from Union of Midwives. The abbreviation is UNIPA, and it is a professional organization that gathers midwives since 2005. And our main interest is to gather midwives, to support the midwives, to form the professional basis for midwives, and also the cultivation of midwifery in Czech Republic. And we wish to influence the environment in which women bring the babies to this world. I myself, I'm a midwife. I work partially in a hospital and partially in community setting, in community environment. And I'm a student of Department of Social Science. I study PhD, and I'm interested in anthropology of birth and in anthropology of body. And one of the studies I have made was the pain during the birth, and I also compared the circumcision, women's circumcision and episiotomy. Okay, so what about the representative of the second organization? Hello, my name is Alena Frýdlová. I am a midwife and I'm a president of Czech Chamber of Midwives. This is also a professional organization of midwives in Czech Republic. Unfortunately, one of three. I work as a midwife in obstetric clinic called Apolinář. Can you tell me something about the organization? Yes, it's just professional organization, and our organization is probably the longest professional organization in Czech Republic. We work since a long time, and we want to defend the interests of midwives and to influence the profession as such. So how would you define midwifery or the profession of midwives? How can it support the health of women or things like that? Well, it's useless to speak about that. We have the definition of midwives, we have the definition of ICM, so it's useless to speak about that because it is specified there in that definition. Well, I do not know these definitions by heart. I always say that a midwife is a university-educated expert in midwifery. The education is very firmly based in our legislation, and the definitions may differ a bit, but for me it is important that midwife is a profession which primarily takes care of birthing women, but the whole scope of midwifery work extends from menarche till late age of women. And I think it is important to emphasize that, or it's my opinion, or maybe my organization's opinion, a midwife is an autonomous, independent care provider. She works with respect, and she would work in partnership with women and their families, plus in cooperation with a doctor. You mentioned the international definition of midwives, but can the people reach or access this definition? If a new midwife would come and would like to explain to other people what midwifery is, what midwife does, is it easy to access this definition, to find it? Oh, that's clear. In our website, for instance, or on the website of Ministry of Health. They explain there how the law views the midwives, and there is a nice video about midwives too, and I think it's the video made by the Chamber of Midwives, and I think it really explains who midwife is. So every midwife should probably know the web page of UNIPA and of the Czech Chamber of Midwives, and the page is the website also of Ministry of Health, but it's quite difficult to find it on that web. Yes, we have an intention for next year. It's our strategic plan to make our website clear. Oh, that will be great. Are you a member, or are your organizations members of international organizations? Both of our organizations are members of European Association of Midwives and also International Confederation of Midwives. And do these organizations have any standards of care, or maybe a list of competencies of midwives? I'm asking about this information because it may be useful for parents who search who midwife is, or maybe the state administration, the clerks also are not very often clear who a midwife is. Well, these people can check the regulation where the midwifery competencies are listed, so it's quite clear. But anyway, you are a member of international organizations, but do you refer to anything these organizations provide? In 2014, there was an ICM Congress in Prague, and we had also EMA meeting here, so there are connections between us and the international organizations. We have translated position statements. Position statements are documents explaining attitudes or approaches of midwives to some situations. Then we have the recommendations of WHO, and we translate also other documents like ethic codex or the principles of care, and we have revised them recently. So we work with the documents, and they can be found also in Czech language on our page. For instance, ethical codex of midwives from ICM, and we follow this codex. That's great. But can the midwives find a support, or can they use these documents in their praxis? I do not mean use them in praxis in theory, but really practically in praxis. Or are there more than less theoretical documents? Well, I would say that these are more than less theoretical documents. What we would use in practice would be recommended procedures or standards. We have partially translated NICE guidelines, or at least we refer to them, and we have parts of that in Czech language. But not everything is possible to be used in Czech Republic, because in Czech Republic there are recommended procedures or standards developed by the Czech Gynecologist Association. That means it's the doctors' organization. The midwives do not have any standards of that kind. So we got inspired by the foreign one, and we compare them to documents we have available here in Czech Republic, and we transform them a bit. Now, there was a very important information here I have heard such important information. We do not have standards of midwifery care, but we have standards of gynecologist care. But from the principle of international organizations, midwife is an independent, autonomous profession. So from our law or any international law, midwives are not obliged to follow the standards of gynecologists, the doctor's standards. It's a different profession, so midwives should not follow another profession's standard. So what will you do in future with this fact? It's a difficult question. Yes, it is, I know. Or maybe I should not ask what will you do with that, but I may ask, do you speak about that? Do you think about this fact? Do you do anything with that? Yes, we do speak about that, and in our strategic plan we've got one item which is forming midwifery standards, and we have planned to summon a group of experts, but we do not have finance to cover that, because if we want some work from some people and if we want the doctors to cooperate on those standards or other professions, we have to pay their time, to pay their work. So the group finally is not existing, but we somehow try to get some finance to cover the work in such a group. At the moment, there is a group of experts summoned in Ministry of Health. The members of that commission of that group have not met yet, so we will see. Maybe there is a hope because they have the development of standards in their program. So the midwives in hospitals, they work on doctor's indication, and the midwife has to follow these standards. Better say, the doctor works according to those standards and he tells the midwife what she should do. Aha, so a midwife in Czech Republic is not independent and autonomous healthcare provider. Well, she is independent. I understand that she can work without any professional supervision. She must fulfill some conditions and she can work independent, but she is not autonomous. I think community midwives are autonomous, not the hospital ones. Oh, that's really pell-mell. That's confusing, really. We do not have standards for midwifery work. The question is, and I will search for that, what is the difference between independent and autonomous, what they say exactly in that dictionary of foreign words. Well, I will try to search for that so that we know exactly how it is. But to call a facility the midwifery-led unit or midwifery center, and this center is following medical doctor standards, it's confusing, and it can be confusing also for the public, and it's really very difficult to strengthen the midwifery profession if it's not clear on base of which standards, or what standards she should work. It's a challenge for our country, isn't it? Yes, it is. It is a challenge. We try to develop standards for many years, and we have never succeeded to really finish them. And do you think it's the money that is an obstacle? Well, it's also a goodwill. Oh, I would say so. Goodwill is missing. Well, we can speculate, what is the real reason. And what can be that strong to invite, what situation could be that strong to invite both organizations to meet together and to work on standards. Maybe you would not need multidisciplinary group at the beginning, and there are European funds and foundations and programs, so maybe you could find some money in these programs. Well, then the standards, it's not only about writing them, but then there must be a will to accept them. So a will from the other side, like the standards for the doctors are accepted and adopted and followed by all the doctors. Well, on the other hand, the midwives have to use the doctor standard. Have they ever been invited to comment on the medical standards? I don't think so. So is that really necessary that the medical doctors would comment on midwifery standards? That's a question. Well, but it is important that the Ministry of Health would officially introduce them. Well, and why should not the ministry adopt them? If both organizations, midwifery organizations who have got good contacts in international midwifery organizations, and if these standards would be in accordance to international standards, do you think that Ministry of Health can refuse them? Well, the general problem here is that we've got more than one midwifery organization. The problem is here, and it's really quite problematic. Well, as I said, there should be a group of experts summoned, a group of experts in obstetrics, and there will be some representatives of medical doctors there, and the topic of standards should be dealt with. So the Ministry of Health see this problem, so we will see. And can that be a message for parents and midwives who might be interested in what is the real situation in midwifery? Would you say that there is a hope in this group, or do you have any other message? Hopeful message. Well, yes, I see a hope in midwifery centers, the centers of midwifery. That is a good, successful step. We can't open birth houses because the regulation does not allow that. And I'm only really sorry that the personalities, the people are the most important. It's not the standards, it's not the system, but always the people with good or bad will would influence the perception of a certain facility. But many hospitals try to improve the practice, or many hospitals are working very similar way as the midwifery centers. They have just proclaimed or give that a name, they proclaimed they are midwifery centers, and they just gave it a name. So that's good. And I think there is another benefit, and it's that it has revived the discussion on this topic. Now, I'm interested in another thing. Why should the midwives be members of one or the other organization? What do you offer to midwives? Should I start? Okay. So we try to offer to them education activities, and it's not only about to clarify the working scope of midwives, but the midwives can really share their professional joy or for professional problems. We offer to them also contacts to international colleagues, or we also had a twin project with Croatian midwives. We had this twin project with another country, and we can offer support in their work. and we can offer to them the documents we've got on our webpage. And if they would have any other concrete demands, we can try to meet their demands. Well, the support, it's really a very tricky word, you know. What can we imagine if you say support? Well, the professional organization can be a member of negotiations with the healthcare and insurance office. We can write some supportive documents to the midwives. If they have some like court cases, we can also offer to them some financial support or such, depending on what is needed. And what about UNIPA? It's like an advertisement here. Well, I think it is very important primarily, and in other words, it is important to form community, and people usually don't like getting together. It's a heritage from communist times. So it is important to really form a good professional work so that people, the members of the group, do not have the feeling that they are lonely in their profession. We also organize educational activities or events, and we organize supervision for midwives, and we also translate different recommendations or articles, and we try to give our members the evidence-based information from their profession, and we try to work on standards. We don't have them yet, but we work on them, and we have documentation, a pattern of documentation, and we have kind of rules or instructions for emergency situations in midwifery, and if needed, we offer the help of lawyer, and we help them in financially in court cases. For instance, we have some members who are going through a court process. We form like support group. I spoke about that at the beginning. There is a support group for midwives in Facebook, and it supports networking. COVID kind of disrupted there, and we had big plans how to meet, but due to COVID, it's not that possible. It's the situation. And networking is active also Direction Women. We have a map of midwives, and women can find a midwife according to this map. And we've got also a group of students. Just now there is an online meeting of students now, and we've got a good coordinator of students, and she brings in a lot of information. So there are many reasons why to become a UNIPA member. Now, a question which can be put in public. If you don't want, we will not put it there. So how many members do you have? And how many midwives are there in Czech Republic? Do you know about that? How many midwives and how many members? How many midwives are there in Czech Republic? Well, it's a mystery for me. I don't know. I think in 2012 I have seen an information that there are about 4,000 midwives, but I don't know really. Maybe it's about 6,000. I don't know. Maybe my colleague would know. I had a feeling that we've got about 5,500 of midwives, so I think it's similar. But I think all midwives are included, so they may be working in outpatient wards, and they may work in gynecologic. And some of my schoolmates started to work at ophthalmology, well, they are registered as midwives. Because the midwives are not re-registered. Once you have finished midwifery education, you are registered as a midwife. Well, this is also not good. It also is against specification of midwifery. So we don't have any midwifery standards. We do not have one organization. Sometimes there is not goodwill to meet and cooperate. Oh, we have goodwill. Yes, we have will. I think, at least UNIPA, but I think also the Czech Chamber of Midwives is a non-governmental organization, and I think both organizations are not non-governmental. It is very difficult to finance the organization, and we are mostly volunteers, and the time management is quite difficult. But I think from my side, at least from our side, it's not a problem to meet. And as to number of organizations, I don't think that there must be only one member organization. The organizations offer different things to the members, so I think that it's good that a midwife can choose what organization she would be a member of. And I think it's very good that the professional organizations try to cooperate. Also in Germany, as I know, in Germany there are more midwifery organizations, and I think even in other countries. So it's not the biggest problem. The unification should be somewhere else, not only in the fact that there will be only one professional organization. Yes, it's true. In Belgium, there are 4 midwifery organizations, but they all work on one principle, and it is the international definition of midwives. Well, in Belgium, they are kind of roofed and kind of unified. Belgium is similar to us, and once we had a Belgian midwife here, and she had a presentation here, and she was very happy that they managed to represent midwives as one organization. Well, with UNIPA, we really managed to be in one voice. But the third organization, they are really against us, and if there is something to be decided, they say, oh, we do not know what to say, and we do not know who to follow, and such. So if the midwives who are not organized yet and would become members of one of our 2 organizations and would follow the definition of midwife, international definition of midwives, that would be wonderful. They should be, first of all, active in their profession. That's important. Okay. Do you have anything else to say? You may or you may not if you don't want to. I said everything. Well, I would like to greet all the midwives and thank them for listening. Thank them for listening. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to meet you again somewhere, sometimes, and for having a talk.